Breaking news in the CBS Sports HQ. Day one of the Ryder Cup has been disastrous for the Americans. Europeans storming out, winning all 4 matches in the morning session. Things got tight in the afternoon in the 4-ball format, but the pressure getting to the United States down the stretch, particularly on 18, Rahm, Victor Hovland putting on the pressure. Rahm eagled twice in the last 3 holes to split a point from Scottie Scheffler and Brooks Koepka. Right now, that's certainly feeling like a backbreaker. Let's take a look at the scores and how these broke down. The 2 sides could have split the afternoon late, but it ends up going 6.5 to 1.5 the Europeans' favor. Homa and Clark missing a great opportunity to win their match outright for a full point. An up and down putt on 18 from Hovland stole a point away from JT and Spieth. And here's the breakdown, as you see right there. For more on day one in Rome, a tough day one, let's toss it out to CBS Sports' Kyle Porter and Rick Gehman. We're there at the course.
Yeah, here we are, KP. A long day in the books from Rome. They've been telling us all week that all roads lead to Rome. On this Friday, all points led to Europe. A 6.5 to 1.5 drubbing, setting this up for a potential runaway before we even get to the second session.
Yeah, right now it feels like all roads lead to Bethpage Black in 2025 because this Ryder Cup appears to be close to over. 6.5, 1.5 after day one. It was, I mean, obviously we talked about foursomes this morning, Rick. It was a disaster for the United States, even by their pretty low standards. They are now 2-16-2 in their last 20 foursomes matches, and they had to go big in the afternoon. They didn't have to win them all. They didn't have to square it up 4-4, but they needed to win probably 2.5, 3 points in the afternoon just to get it back to a place where you felt at all good about it. And they kind of had Europe in that spot, right? Like they had 3 points on the board at one point late in the day, and then they just either kicked them away or Europe came and took them. So I think this event is pretty much over. They're going to play it out and play the string out, and Europe is probably going to go on to win. But I thought Europe really went out and kind of won the event on Friday afternoon by coming back in some of these matches.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, there was a lot of red on the board. There were the first sign of life that we saw from the American team for a couple of hours there. Justin Thomas was doing his best to get the crowd going, to motivate the team. We saw Scottie Scheffler try to make a run at doing the same thing. But at the end of the day, they still have not won a full point in a match. Just the 3 ties to get them to the 1.5 points. I mean, it just all kind of slipped away there at the end.
Yeah, it did. I think you have to give credit to Europe for hanging in. It would have been, I think, very easy for them to look at the board and say, hey, we're still up 5-3. We're still up 5.5 to 2.5, whatever it was. And they just kept coming. They kept coming until the end. I was on 18, walking with the Hovland match, walking with the Rahm match just after that. And the emotional shift in specifically the Hovland match. So he's got JT Spieth, and JT is screaming and cursing and trying to get something going for the U.S. side. And it looked like he did. It looked like he would for a while. And then Victor Hovland in the end just poured it in on 18 to take that half point back, which was an unbelievable swing. I had Shane Lowry in front of me, Rick, falling on his back, doing tumbles in the rough here at Marco Simone, and then Rahm to make the putt that he did, which was even longer than Victor Hovland's. Kind of the same thing. You got Shane Lowry running around. The Europeans are celebrating. The music is playing in the background, and this is kind of what they do in Europe.
Yeah, well, let's dive into that Hovland, Hatton, Spieth, and Thomas match a little bit here, because I was with them for the vast majority of the front 9. You kind of picked them up coming in, and I was impressed with Justin Thomas, who was a controversial selection to this team. He had to play essentially by himself over the course of the last 4 or 5 holes because his partner Jordan Spieth was in his pocket. So it's basically a 2-on-1 situation, and Hovland, as mentioned, was able to make the putt to get the half a point. But Justin Thomas, I think, did enough to earn a lot of credit from those who said he might not have been on the team, myself included.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's easy to kind of look back and play armchair quarterback like we get to do all the time. I thought the decision was the right one at the time, and I don't know that anything JT did or didn't do this week would kind of change my mind on that. But he played well in spots, and he was, to me, the last 2 hours of today was kind of why you brought him. He was the emotional guy. He was, he makes the putt on 15 for par. To tie that hole, and he looks back in the fairway and he's screaming, trying to get Scheffler and Koepka, fired up from on the green. They were back in the fairway, so he did what JT does, but he did miss some putts. He had a putt on 16 that he could have made. He had a little bit longer putt on 17 that he could have made, and then finally he did make one on 18 to get the half point. But I think you're right, but also like he had some putts that could have won the match, and he kind of they weren't easy putts, but he could have made one of those to steal the full point for the Americans.
Well, let's spin this forward because we're going to do it all again on Saturday. 2 more sessions, foursomes for ball. And we're kind of entering that territory, KP, where it would be a historical comeback if the United States was able to pull it off. So, I mean, are we one session away from declaring this thing completely over if the Americans don't go out and get, what's the number, 3.5 points on Saturday morning?
Well, I already tweeted Vince Carter, so I don't know if that's official or if that's just KP official or what. But yeah, listen, if Europe gets to 10, that's it, and they only need 3.5 to get there. I think the Americans have to win like 3 of the 4 foursomes matches in the morning, which they've only won 2 of their last 20 in Europe. So are they going to go win 3 of 4 tomorrow? Doesn't feel like it, but I think if they win 3 of 4, then you can start talking about 4 balls, maybe something electric happening in the afternoon, and it being something realistic going into Sunday. But it's going to come down to whether you can go, and I think the miracle for them is going to be stealing 3 points, maybe even 2.5 points in 4 balls, in foursomes in the morning, and then doing what they did today, just closing out those matches in the afternoon in 4 ball.
Yeah, well, we'll be here to see how it all plays out. But for now, that's Kyle Porter. I'm Rick Gehman, and we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, guys, thanks so much for that. Yeah, let's take a look at the schedule for the weekend. Saturday morning, back to the foursomes, and Saturday afternoon is 4 ball. Again, the magic number to win here, 14.5. Of course, if the Ryder Cup does end in a tie, somehow 14-14, the winner from 2021 would retain the Cup championship. Of course, that would be the United States. But again, the European side up 6.5 to 1.5 after the first 2 rounds. It was a rough day for the American side. And for more on what happened today and what to expect going forward, reminder, check out the First Cut podcast. You can hear from the guys at CBSSports.com or use that QR code on your screen to find it.